I've been teaching in the Masters of Higher Ed program at Drexel University since 2010. I teach campus operations, higher education law, and strategic planning in higher ed. So that gives me a little bit different perspective on student success than just an admin guy. I work in the classroom with students, work closely with them on ensuring that they're going to advance. Now, Drexel is a little bit different than the community colleges, right? It's a private institution, and so they're a little better prepared than the students that we have. But beyond just my teaching experience, I also intentionally sought out a research project in my dissertation that focused on student success. My dissertation is on the impact of management decision-making on student success in community colleges. What was most important about my research work is that I was fortunate to engage with students in my research. I had focus groups with students. And what it really brought me back to is we can look at all the national research about student success, and there's a lot. We're an Achieving the Dream school at Modesto Junior College, and a lot of my dissertation work was based on Achieving the Dream and the research that they do there. But until you sit with students and you ask them what they need, we really don't know. So not only do I have the theory from my research and connecting with the Achieving the Dream network, but I work closely with students in my focus groups. And so I've extended that also in working closely with students at Modesto Junior College in the project lead. And so for the past few years, I've been working with anywhere from 3 to 5 students. We get assigned students and we work with them on basically mentoring them on good study practices, how to navigate our systems. But what's most important from that is the learning that I take from that is that they tell us what we do well. And they tell us what we don't do well. And we think we know, but we really don't know until we hear it from students. So I would say on the individual interaction is how I've directly participated in student success. But beyond that, our president at Modesto Junior College virtually expects all of our administrators to be engaged in our initiatives. I've been as deeply involved in our Achieving the Dream work as the Vice President of Student Services and our Vice President of Instruction as well. All of the things that we're doing in terms of our student success hubs and our work on our pathways and the things that we're doing in the strong workforce to try and develop pathways as well. I'm involved intimately in all of that work. And really our president expects that any one of us, any one of the VPs should be able to rotate through any one of the chairs. And so we don't see it as being a silo at Modesto Junior College. We see it as everybody's experience to be intimately involved in what we do for student success. And I'll leave that particular question there.
What is your understanding of participatory governance?
Well, we have a pretty clear framework. I mean, all of us can look at the 10+1 and know what's required of us in AB 1725. But what I think is really important about our participatory governance structure is that we've built in an opportunity beyond just the law says these are the 10 things or 10+1. But we built systems in the college and the district where our faculty and staff believe that they have a voice, that they have the ability to engage in the necessary data to make recommendations, that it's transparent to them, they work with it, they understand it, and that they have the opportunity for open dialogue in our colleges before a recommendation goes forward to either the college president or through our district council or whatnot. So I don't want to belabor the point on what's in the 10+1 or what AB 1725 says, because that's really the technical piece. What's most important is that we're committed at the district and at the colleges to create vehicles for discussion on the recommendations that go forward, and that we're also committed in terms of our leadership not to force decisions forward unnecessarily without the proper dialogue. And where we see bumps in the road in our governance processes, if an issue is not ready to go forward, that we take the time to work it out in our internal constituencies and find out what more data needs to be vetted, what more timeline that we need to use internally before we move a process forward. So I focus more on the spirit of what we're supposed to do in participatory governance than what the law says we have to do.
Please give examples of your experience fiscal management, FTES generation, and enrollment management?
Well, I've applied for the magic wand that we could waive and increase our FTES. Haven't gotten that. If anybody else in our district gets that, I will be lucky. But I think from my resume, you've seen my experience on fiscal management. I've been Vice Chancellor of Administrative Services of a district that was about $50 million budget. I've been Chief Financial Officer of a K-12 district with a $400 million budget. I'm responsible for the fiscal management of the college budget. Now at Modesto Junior College, which depending on which year we're talking about, we're about up to 55, 56 million now. FTS generation and enrollment management is a little bit more tricky recipe, but I'll go back to what I said about what our president expects from us, that it's not any one person's role. So we spend a lot of time working with our deans on the schedule. When we offer classes, are there clashes between important classes where we're barring students from being able to enroll for a full schedule? So we focus a lot on what the markers are that students need to hit to be successful, and weaving those then in on how, if we can create success for them and their returning students, and that's obviously where our FTS generation lies. It's not getting them in the door in the first place, but it's keeping them there. And so we spend a lot of work on how we optimize the schedule so that students can get a class schedule, so that their degree patterns flow out through their 2-year cycle, that we're keeping classes on the schedule that might be low enrolled, that are like capstone classes or degree completion classes, but we're sacrificing on the front end and making sure that we have larger class sizes, that we have more offerings in terms of the pipeline so that students can keep flowing through in their educational pursuits. I didn't offer anything magic about FTES generation or enrollment management because that's always the art of what we do at all the colleges, and it changes year by year. In 2008, if you look in the strategic plan and look at our FTES and our head count, it was through the roof. And then we come to what we feel like should be a time where we really have an opportunity in community colleges, but our head count and our enrollment's lagging because the good economy has pulled many of our students back into the economy. So it's really not something that we can say, here's the magic bullet for enrollment management. We have to be on top of it every year, depending on what the circumstances are. We have to be enterprising about bringing on new programs that are industry needs, and that's something that we'll be working on through the strong workforce programming. But at the end of the day, it's what we do every day, is to try and manage our FTES and make sure our students can get through the pipeline.
Describe a situation where you were faced with a significant challenge and your leadership helped achieve a successful outcome.
Well, I don't want to get too much into the minutia, but there's a few examples. Connie's sitting in the room. We'll just talk about what I think is a significant challenge in terms of relationship building. A pretty simple issue, but I'll use it as an example. We've had quite a hard time in getting things through the Policies and Procedures Committee, which is a participatory group. We have faculty and staff on that committee. And one of the things that seems to, whether true or not, one of the things that's a recurring theme there is that the representatives on the Policies and Procedures Committee have been pretty overt in saying that they don't trust what we're doing in that particular committee. They don't particularly trust administration. They feel like we're trying to move policies through without being vetted properly, and they don't feel like we have a voice. And these are their words, and they said them out loud with several of us in the room. So they can be pretty easily verified. And why I think that is significant is because it really comes back to our relationships. It's a signal to me that while we're doing a lot of great work and what we do at the colleges, we have a fantastic district in terms of financial stability. We do a lot of great things. But while we're doing them, we've lost some of the relationships, and I feel like we've gotten to the point where we've become so transactional in moving these things through. We've got to have outcomes, which we do, and we've got to have the stability that we do, which I fully support. But it really emphasizes that not everybody's coming along with us at the same pace. And so in that particular instance, I sat down with some of the faculty and said, look, it was particularly faculty that expressed this concern and said, you know, I really don't have a side on these policies. I'm on the side of what's right for the students. So let's talk about what your interests are, how we can move these things forward, how I can help identify where these things we need to spend a little more time on them and think them through a little bit, not just move them through. They gave me some advice on how I could work with them. Ultimately, Connie and I sat down with faculty leadership and said, what are some strategies that are going to work? How can we communicate better with the faculty that are represented on this group so that things that seem like they could move through pretty easily don't become an issue just for the principle of the matter. Let's talk about where we need to explore things where you really truly have issues, and let's take the time on those, but let's take kind of the sport blockage of policies out of this just because we don't feel that there's trust with the administration. What do we need to do to be trusted? You know, what do you need from us? What can we give to you to help us move these things forward? And at the end of the day, what was successful about the outcome is we were able to build out a framework in which we could communicate with faculty that didn't feel like we had their best interests at heart. We were able to work on some strategies where they could kind of flag us when they feel really important about an issue and we need to take some more time. And they agreed that on those things that seemed more procedural, that we'd move them through a little bit more easily. And so it seems like a really little thing because the Policies and Procedures Committee is small. But the communication we had that it was having a broad-based impact on the faculty beyond just the Policies and Procedures Committee. So we feel like that little win in that small environment has cascaded out beyond that and will help us in other areas as well.
So Dr. Alt, the group has your resume and you've answered all the questions for today. Is there anything else that you would like to add or like for them to know about you?
Yes. The first thing I'd like to do is thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm absolutely humbled to get to even sit here and talk to you about what I could offer for this position. The second thing I'd like to touch on is that you know from my materials and from what I've just said that I'm at Modesto Junior College and I'm the Vice President of Administration there. I need you to know that I love that job. I feel like I found a home at Modesto Junior College. I've been very welcomed there, and there isn't a day that well, maybe on negotiations day I don't want to go, but for the most part, there are not days that I don't want to go to work. I love going to work there. So what's important for me to have you know here is that I'm not sitting here questioning the leadership or the management that we have. I'm so passionate about what we do at Modesto Junior College, and I want to do it long term. I want to be here long term. So this is more an opportunity for me to see if I can have even a deeper impact on what we do for our students and our communities, not questioning at all what my intentions are about Modesto Junior College or my interest in my job. Really, at the end of the day, the way I want to wrap it up is to bring it back to, you've seen my resume. You know that I don't have the traditional path to CEO. Although, if you're reading the news lately, a lot of chief business officers are getting president roles and chancellor roles. It's becoming more and more common, but I've been very intentional on how I build out my experience. So I haven't just focused on my subject matter expertise, but I've intentionally sought to broaden my understanding of the institutions by taking teaching roles, by being intimately involved in things that cause me to have to search into what we do in the teaching environment, like collective bargaining. We frankly can't be good negotiators if we don't understand what happens in the classroom and what happens in counseling. So it causes us to take a deep dive into what goes on there. So I've sought that role intentionally. I talked to you about my research project, so I'm not going to go into that any more deeply, but at the end of the day, I've been very intentional to build my skills beyond just being an administrative person. And what it all boils down to is what, in my humble opinion, what I think we need in this situation is, I talked about the projects that need to be done. We know those are critical. But one of the things that I've learned in the last 3 years in talking to faculty and staff is there's a real feeling of I've heard this term, headless horseman, or the turnstile or the revolving door of administration. And so I worked really hard in our campus community to build very trusting, lasting relationships with our faculty and staff. And while I know I haven't taken the traditional path to a role like this, what I think is really important in our situation is there's fear in our campus communities that we're going to be back to the headless horseman, or that we're going to be back to the revolving door of leadership. And for us to move the things forward that we need, I believe we need somebody that our faculty and staff feel is trustworthy, that they believe in, and know has a long-term vested interest in this institution. And so at the end of the day, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm going to fix all the issues in this district. Nobody can, but if we find them, please grab them. But I'm sitting here before you very humbly saying that I feel strongly about what we do with students. I feel strongly that what makes that happen is our faculty and staff that deal with students every day. And what I bring to the table that may be unique in this particular situation is those relationships and the feeling that if I'm in this role, that I can be trusted to have their best interest and the students' best interests at heart. And with that, I'll close.
Any other questions?
Can you tell us something about you?
I can tell you a lot about me. The most important role I have, and I didn't really see this coming, is being a dad. I mean, we all know that's pretty impactful, right? But I have a son and a daughter. I have a 5-year-old son. I have a 3-year-old daughter. And what I've learned from it is not just what we get out of being parents, but it's really focused me on really how important what we do is. I used to take a bit of offense to being called privileged because I'm a low-income, first-generation student. I didn't really feel like I was that privileged. But now I look at how important it is what we do, and my kids are privileged, and there's never going to be a question of whether they come to college because I'm talking to them about it now. They're putting money in their own college account. Almost every night, if I've got a dollar bill or some change, we put that in their college account, and they're excited about it. So they're already at 3 years old talking about, yay, we're going to college. And what's so important about that is the people that we work with don't have that benefit. They don't have people that nurture them and tell them that we believe in them. I mean, we do, but we don't interact with them on a daily basis and help them understand. Our students are primarily low income, primarily English as a second language, primarily first generation students, so they have trouble navigating our systems. So when they show up on campus and they see these big buildings and people walk by them and don't engage with them, it confirms that they didn't belong there and they walk away. And when they go to an office and they don't get help, or they call a phone number that rings and rings and rings, it just confirms that they don't belong at college. And so I look at my kids and I know they're not going to have that challenge, and it makes me come to work saying we really need to remove that challenge for the students at our colleges.
I was just going to say, Al, or Dr. Alt, I said good luck, Al. I think that's the most words I've said to you in the years you've been here. So I didn't really know you until I read your resume and then heard you today. And if you're chosen, you'd just be a great resume for a great example of the grow your own concept that we have. I wrote so much down here. I was a teacher with a dissertation in student services, a former vice chancellor, an acting president, vice president of administration, and then the different subject matters: HR, director of safety and security, the chief financial officer. As you said, it's a different path, and you were the other intriguing candidate to me today. You also, I got to say, gave the best answers on accreditation that I've heard.
Thank you.
And then generally, probably the best answers I've heard from most practical, direct answers I've heard from a education administrator. So, again, I just want to say how impressed I was with you.
Thank you. I appreciate
I
that.
have one question. Do you have any animals?
Oh my God. Yes, I have 3 horses, a pony, 2 dogs, a cat, a turtle. I don't know how many chickens because they go back and forth between residents. So yeah, I'm you're a pretty traditional country kid, more than I need.
Okay, with that, I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Dr. Alt.
Thank you for your time.